Welcome to the week that was TIOL's weekly news roundup. So, the Union Budget 2016 is at our doorsteps and all eyeballs anxiously waiting for the Monday to unfold. While, on the one hand, the Finance Minister may feel the heat of general expectations, on the other hand stands the reality of widening fiscal deficit.
In this episode, we bring you news about the Project Insight, the proposal of using new smart technology for catching tax evasion, savings recorded by the Revenue Department, Supreme Court's view on CAG audit of intelligence agencies and more.
We will also cover interesting news about India's bid to formulate its first encryption law, take a stock of the Competition Commission of India, and some international news about corporate bribery and WTA ruling in the India-US solar dispute.
Let's now begin with the episode with first story about Mr. Suresh Prabhu's second rail budget.
Prabhu balances populism with tricky economics. In his second rail budget, Mr. Suresh Prabhu demonstrated his desire to bring the Indian Railways on modern track with lots of comforts for general passengers and appealing facilities like Wi-Fi at 100 stations and double-decker trains. With a planned size of Rs 1.21 lakh crore, he intends to lay 7-kilometer new track per day and introduce semi-high-speed trains on many routes. What may surprise many is his proposal to introduce the recommendations of the 7th Pay Commission for the railway employees with no hike in the passenger fare and a substantial jump in the passenger amenities. He has, interestingly enough, also promised to cut freight charges for goods in the coming months. Let's wait and watch how much he ultimately fulfills his promises by adopting innovative internal resource streamlining. The Finance Ministry has realized that smart technology can be effectively used to detect tax evasion.
The government will no longer use a bulldozer to kill an ant. The search and seizure operations to track the source of undisclosed funds, as conducted by the tax department, which are invariably messy and insensitive, may soon become history. The Finance Ministry is all set to use clean and precise technology-driven tools to track down tax evaders, and Project Insight is its new flagship project to provide in the tax base and get a lowdown on tax evaders. The Finance Ministry has floated a tender worth over Rs 150 crore to select a managed service provider who would develop a data mining and data analytics software, in addition to infrastructure which would help the department to go after high-value targets first. This project shall be implemented in a phased manner during the 3-year period over 2016 to 2018. Budget 2016 is expected to spell out details of the first phase of this project. Central Excise Day 2016 was celebrated in the capital on Wednesday at the Manekshaw Centre.
Central Excise Day, celebrated to keep excise employees motivated, was attended by the Finance Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, and the Minister of State for Finance, Mr. Jayant Sinha, where 65 officers of the Customs, Central Excise and Service Tax were conferred appreciation certificates.
While being in government and performing an important national duty, I think your most valuable possession when the day you walk out of service is going to be the credibility that you have earned throughout your career.
As chief guests at the annual investiture ceremony for officers with a distinguished service record, both the ministers urged officers for working to achieve a vigilant excise bureaucracy and high standards of professionalism in the department, besides preventing corruption and implementing rules effectively. The CBSE chairman, Mr. Najeem Shah, the Revenue Secretary, Mr. Hasmukh Adya were also present on the occasion. While Mr. Shah commended the department for being efficient and proactive, Mr. Adya spoke about the importance of spirituality in an officer's life and work.
From a modest revenue of 68 crores in 1950-51, we are now hoping to comfortably exceed the target of Rs 2 crores 28 lakhs 157 in the fiscal year 15-16. As on January 2016, we have already collected central excise revenue of 2 crores 24 lakhs 281 This dramatic growth by nearly 4 lakh% has been accompanied with a radical change in how the department views its taxpayers.
Central Excise Day was also celebrated in Cochin, Kerala, God's own country, where popular South Indian cine actors graced the occasion. Now some other news. Will India witness its first data encryption law? Let's hear it from Suman.
We have heard umpteen times about the unbreakable data lock of Apple handsets. Well, this may soon see its end. Even as the tussle between the Apple CEO, Tim Cook, and the FBI continues in the USA over the same issue, the Ministry of Information and Technology is working seriously on India's first encryption law for accessing data lock in mobile handsets like Apple phones. Currently, the Indian intel agencies have the technology to intercept calls and decrypt data at 128-bit encryption, whereas telecom companies use 256 or 512-bit encryption, which as per the cyber experts can pose national security threat like terrorist attacks. WhatsApp and Skype communications can also come under surveillance scanner. Last year, the government had released a draft policy over encryption which had to be withdrawn due to the hue and cry over the privacy issue. The draft is being revised and will become public soon. Competition Commission going to turn 7 years old.
As the Fair Trade Regulator, which started its journey in May 2009, is nearing its 7th anniversary this year, competition law experts are sharing their insights over its performance and the challenges ahead. As per the experts, while the Commission has cracked whips on cartels, identified abuse of dominant position, stricter screening of M&A's deals, yet there is a long way to go. Till now, the Commission has imposed a penalty of Rs 14,000 crores, out of which only 1% has been recovered, rest all stuck up in stay orders. The Commission's order are repeatedly being reversed by the Appellate Tribunal, which again raises a serious question on its procedure. Another serious challenge faced by the Commission and especially the Director General Office is understaffing, which not only adversely affects disposal of matters but also the quality of investigation. Unlike SEBI, Commission does not enjoy autonomy in its recruitment and is dependent on the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Let's hope with the new chairman in the office, some of these problems are soon addressed. Supreme Court says CAG cannot audit intelligence agencies.
Some people think that TIOL can be filed for anything and everything. Recently, the Supreme Court dismissed the TIOL filed by the NGO Center for Public Interest Litigation, which had pleaded for bringing the intelligence agencies like RAW, IB and National Technical Research Organization within the purview of CAG. Mr. Prashant Bhushan, representing this NGO, had argued that all these years the intelligence agencies have operated under the executive control away from the scrutiny of the parliament, resulting in misuse of funds and corruption. However, the Apex Court rejected this argument and rightly observed that putting the intel agencies under the CAG scanner would compromise their functioning. The court was satisfied with the present strict checks and balances exercised by the executive. Well, it is in the larger interest of the nation that certain things should remain secret. Another episode of mob violence and bloodshed in the history of reservation.
Caste-based reservation, the popular political weapon, has given rise to more bloodshed, destruction and complete lawlessness in the last few days in Haryana. The ongoing Jat quota unrest has given rise to such gruesome instances that the government was compelled to engage army and paramilitary forces. While the PhD Chamber of Commerce has estimated a staggering loss of Rs 34,000 crores due to this mob violence, the event has also generated a deep sense of fear and insecurity among the investors in Haryana. The BJP government has appointed a high-powered committee to look into the demands of the Jat community. However, the bigger question is, when is this bloodshed in the pretext of reservation going to end? With the budget around the corner, will import duty on steel be raised?
Increasing steel imports have crippled the domestic industry, and FICCI has requested the Finance Ministry to raise the import duty on steel products to 25% in Budget 2016-17 to provide a level playing field. Demand for steel has declined in China, the world's largest steel producer and consumer, which has resulted in this country dumping steel products in India at cheaper prices. Making a case for increase in import duty, the industry body stated that the free trade agreements, instead of benefiting the domestic steel producers, has resulted in more steel imports, and therefore steel products must be excluded from its ambit. Certainly, the domestic steel manufacturers are anxiously waiting for some immediate relief from the budget. India's solar energy mission hits a roadblock.
The long-standing India-US dispute over solar power does not seem to get over. Recently, the US had filed a complaint against India at the WTO, challenging the solar power agreements entered by India with solar firms. The contention of the US was that the clauses relating to domestic content requirement, or DCR, for the procurement of solar cells and modules under the Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission were discriminatory and violated the principle of most favored nation treatment. The dispute panel of WTO accepted the contention of US and ruled that the DCR was discriminatory. India now has an option to file an appeal against this order. India has set an ambitious target of generating 20,000 megawatt of solar power by 2022. This is certainly not a positive development at a time when PM Modi is trying his best to project India as the leader of the solar energy producing nations.
Corporate bribes exposes bitter side of US chocolate company.
It is one sweet deal gone sour. Mondelez, the maker of Cadbury chocolates and Oreo biscuits, may be in trouble in America, even as the Central Vigilance Commission, or CVC, in India investigates charges of excise duty evasion against this multinational confectionery giant. While the CVC is looking into the role of central and state government officials who may have been bribed to help the company in evading duty, this multinational company is also being questioned in US for allegedly bribing government officials in India earlier for acquiring factory permissions after its global takeover of Cadbury. Mondelez faces potential enforcement action from the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, the US market regulator under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. On this note, we conclude this bulletin of the week that was. Thank you for watching.
You may write to us on editor@tiol.in. Have a wonderful weekend ahead.